Tonight on the Donlon Report, take a deep breath, everyone. We're going to wade through the Omicron reaction and the concern. Do the headlines we're reading match the reality? Plus, did you hear what a couple of the airline CEOs said about masks and planes? They don't help much. Certainly a bombshell that hasn't gotten much attention. We'll ask our doc about that. And should Leah Thomas be allowed to compete in women's swimming? She's a transgender athlete at UPenn, breaking a lot of records. Parents and fellow athletes say it's not fair. We'll talk with someone who says it is. Great to have you with us. Live from our Chicago studios, the Donlon Report starts right now. All right, off we go. We need an Omicron reality check. Just the facts, and that is the pulse of America tonight. The headlines this morning were certainly jarring, and there were a lot of them. Take a look at this. Everything from a grim forecast from the CDC to warnings about gatherings again, restaurant closings, vaccine resistance, questions about canceling Christmas. For a second, you may have gone back in time. This was shades of what we dealt with last year. So we're going to take a deep breath again and look at Omicron. It is spreading fast in South Africa and the UK, and the UK tends to be a few weeks ahead of us here in the US. While it appears to spread faster than other variants, the symptoms also appear to be milder. It does not affect the lungs as much as other variants, according to studies. You can get infected with Omicron if you've had a previous variant. More on this now. If you've had 2 shots and a booster, you're pretty well protected. The death rate is very low. In fact, the only case we know of so far is one person in the UK who had it, but we don't know if that person died from Omicron. If you're not vaccinated and you're in a high-risk group, the elderly, or have a pre-existing condition, you are in danger of getting hospitalized. Here are some other facts as well. Overall, cases, positivity rates, hospitalizations, and deaths are all going up. That's what we know. And some of that is new since the initial Omicron hysteria over Thanksgiving weekend. We all remember that, waking up to the news on Black Friday. And to perhaps no one's surprise, we are nervous, yes, but we're also tired of COVID. A Monmouth University poll finds 60% of Americans are worn out by pandemic-related changes. They want to get back to normal. 45% are angry about how COVID has affected their lives. So when we wake up to a grim warning from the CDC of 1.3 million cases the week of Christmas and a 73% jump in deaths by early January, that's an eye-opener when we're already exhausted. Dr. Fauci himself has said there's no need for a booster specific to Omicron. The current vaccines, he says, will do. And as our friend and frequent guest, Robbie Suave from Reason Magazine says, quote, everyone's going to get COVID eventually. And when you get it, you're either going to be vaccinated or you're going to wish you were. Leave it to Robbie for some common sense. So what's with all the scary headlines? Joining us now to make sense of all of this, Dr. Bob Lahita. It's always good to see you, Doc. And let's get some medical common sense here. Are we overreacting? Because this feels like where we were a year ago.
I think we are overreacting, Joe. First of all, this variant is highly transmissible, but it seems to produce a much milder illness. And the booster shot, any one of them, will give you a 75% of protection. Now, you know, it just doesn't depend on neutralizing antibody, but your T and B cells are important. And if you've already had the infection and you've been vaccinated with 3 shots, you can feel assured that you're not going to wind up on a ventilator or die. And that's the most important thing. People have to stop worrying, but it pays for us to pay attention of this spreading variant.
So that leads us to a couple of other questions, Doc. Number one, what is the definition now of fully vaccinated? You need the booster, correct?
It's going to come right out shortly. At least in New York State, they're going to say that you need 3 shots to be considered fully vaccinated. And I would imagine the rest of the country is going to be the same way. And this is to protect us. This is something that if you haven't had it, you should get your vaccination now, because you're definitely going to get COVID if you're not vaccinated.
All right, another headline that came out today, Doctor, the CDC panel recommending the 2 mRNA vaccines, that would be Moderna and Pfizer, over J&J. What do people who got the J&J shot need to know about this?
They don't need to know anything about this, because if they've gotten the shot and they haven't had an adverse reaction, it's not going to happen to them now, long time, several weeks after the injection. This is a very rare blood clot. We know what it's caused by. We know that it's an immune reaction that's very rare and only happens in women. And so the millions and millions of people who have had the J&J shot have not had, the vast majority have had nothing happen. It's extremely unusual and very rare, and it shouldn't dissuade anybody from getting immunized, especially if the J&J is the only thing you have.
Let's talk about some of the fallout, Doctor, because there's been a lot of it that we are seeing. Sports leagues are dealing with this. We know that Broadway at least is shutting some of its shows down right after reopening. We have universities, including Cornell, that are going online for finals, and those are kids. And in many cases, in the theater and in these football leagues and in the sports leagues, these folks are all vaccinated. My question is, does that concern you that these are apparently breakthrough cases?
Well, they're not clinically ill from what I have heard. Now, we know that if you're vaccinated, you can be infected and you can carry the virus for a short period of time. And you can probably spread that virus to others. Hence the need for masks at Christmas parties when you're singing Joy to the World at the top of your lungs and you've had a few stiff drinks. That is an important thing to remember. In a closed space, you're going to transmit the virus to your friends and colleagues. And if somebody in that crowd is not vaccinated or has immunogenetically big problems or is overweight or has some immunosuppressive drug they're taking, that could be a problem. Hence the reason for your need to be very careful, wash your hands, and wear masks, particularly in closed spaces.
CDC says deaths will be up 73% by January. How do they project that, Doctor? Are they taking into consideration here the folks who are unvaccinated and the rate at which they're dying?
I would presume that they're taking that into consideration, but that, Joe, seems like an awfully big number, and it is causing some panic among people. And perhaps it's designed to make sure that everybody gets their 3 shots. There are over 75 million people have not been vaccinated, which is an astounding number when you think about it. So yes, it's important now for people to wake up and get the shot, because you're sure as heck going to get COVID if you haven't been vaccinated. Yeah,
hindsight's 20/20, Doctor. I'm curious, if we are in the midst of another spike, should we handle things differently this time around? What have we learned almost, 2 years in now?
We've learned that extreme measures such as wearing a mask for everybody, by cracking down on businesses and making all the employees wear masks, or in bigger terms, to be vaccinated, sometimes is not that great for the economy, particularly when we're dealing with a new variant, which is highly transmissible, but doesn't cause severe clinical disease. The Delta is still out there, and the Delta is what's causing most of the problems. Most of our patients in the ICU who are dying are unvaccinated and dying from Delta, not from Omicron.
Want to get you quickly, Doc. We just have a few seconds left on the CEOs of the airlines saying that masks don't help much on airplanes.
I just heard that, and I'm amazed at that, because I just flew back from California and I was wearing a mask and everybody else was. I'm not so sure about that. I have to look at the data, Joe.
All right. Dr. Bob Lahita of St. Joseph's Health in New Jersey and author of Immunity Strong. It's always good to see you, Doctor. Take care.
Thank you.
Inflation or not, the U.S. economy is on a rebound. The unemployment rate is down. Economic growth is up. But what happens if America locks down again? Let's ask business journalist, our friend Shivani Joshi. Shivani, I don't know. This seems like it could certainly be what we're dealing with right now, at least another shock to the economy, just as we're coming back.
Yeah, absolutely. And at a time which is a very busy time in our nation and critical for retailers and restaurants and hotels ahead of the holiday shopping season, these new imposed regulations and restrictions, a California mandate where I am living indoors, kind of throwing some cold water on holiday parties. We know on the East Coast, Broadway has been shuttered. All of these things in response to Omicron, and at a time where businesses are already tenuous and they need the next few weeks and the next month to turn from red into green.
Boy, a lot of people are shuddering, Shivani, to think of the possibility of another shutdown. The president did address it recently. Here's what he said.
Our lockdown's off the table.
Yes, for now, yes.
Why is that?
Well, because we're able to, if people are vaccinated and wear their masks, there's no need for the lockdown.
So the White House reiterated that yesterday, Shivani, but what caught my ear as I just listened to that again was he said, for now. And I don't want to insinuate that we're going to be heading back there, but just, I guess, in a federal sense, maybe not, but I can certainly see where maybe some cities or states might do this. How damaging could this be to the economy?
Well, you know what businesses are doing right now, Joe, and what they're having to do is to remain fluid and flexible. And so what we are seeing major corporations keeping an eye on what's happening with the Omicron variant, the numbers, the statistics from the CDC, and they're starting to make changes. So one, with the mask policy, two, with the vaccination policy, whether it's 2 vaccinations or 3 to be fully vaccinated. And then the next is they are changing their work from home approach. Many of them were calling workers back into the office in the month of January. It moved from October until early next year. And now even those plans are being put on hold. I think what businesses are hoping is that these mitigating efforts to, and it's not just businesses, colleges sending their students home to take their finals, keeping workers at home, putting these mask mandates on is the lesser of the 2 evils, because right now we're in this awkward balancing act, because what we don't want to have happen is a massive shutdown, which is going to put pressure on inflation, which is going to worsen the supply chain issue, which is going to worsen our labor shortage. So these are these measures proactive that businesses are hoping to keep the economy afloat and moving forward.
Yeah, let's talk about the economy overall. Doing better by pretty much all measures except for inflation, which is why the Fed now says it'll raise interest rates possibly 3 times next year. Shivani, this is a bullish sign. This is an indication that the Fed thinks the economy doesn't need at least as much help anyway. What does all this signal to you?
Yeah, so this was very much expected by Wall Street. We didn't see any negative effect in terms of stocks in your portfolios. And actually what we saw, it was not in concert, but what we saw were the major banks, Bank of England, the ECB, as well as the Federal Reserve, all saying within 24 hours of one another, they are going to take steps to increase interest rates across the European Union and the zone, as well as in the United States. And what this signals to me, Joe, is that the central banks no longer are really worried about the temporary effect of Omicron and the temporary effect of inflation. They actually are putting more weight onto the possibility that inflation is going to be a long-term issue. And that is the focus of the central bank and its interest rate increases, which are going to happen, 3 of them next year.
Which the markets have responded well to, right? But inflation, as we know, is not good for anyone, consumers, businesses, or the president for that matter, which could be a key issue for him next year and beyond.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, what we are starting to see is inflation starting to creep up into all sorts of things, wages not being able to keep up, impacting the prices of goods. And that is just worsening our labor shortage issue. People are not wanting to come back to the workforce. And then the Omicron variant is making hesitant people even more hesitant. You know, schools are starting to, the school shortage or closures are starting to happen, not necessarily because of measures being enacted, but because of labor shortages. And so this is what, the economists, what Wall Street is continuing to pay attention to. We've got the Omicron issue. We've got inflation. What the Fed believes is that Omicron is going to be a short-term temporary thing, not necessarily speaking to the health effects, but really what their longer-term focus is inflation. And they are saying that it is here and they don't want it to stay.
Yeah. A lot to keep an eye on, and we appreciate you helping us wade through it all. Business journalist Shivani Joshi, good to see you again. Take care.
Good to see you. Thanks.
Former police officer Kim Potter expected to take the stand as early as tomorrow in her own defense. She's charged with manslaughter in the shooting death of Dante Wright during a traffic stop. She grabbed her gun instead of her taser. Up next, our former prosecutor is asking if there's a criminal case here. Should she have been charged? We'll get into that. Plus, this breaking in just the last few minutes, a search warrant issued for Alec Baldwin's cell phone in the investigation into the deadly shooting on his movie set. More on that next. New developments in the Alec Baldwin case, a search warrant issued now for his phone. The actor-director shot and killed cinematographer Helena Hutchins on the movie set of Rust in New Mexico in October. In an interview with ABC News, Baldwin said that, quote, "Someone is responsible for the shooting, but I know it's not me." Baldwin also said he believes the shooting was, quote, "likely an accident." So what are authorities looking for? Let's bring in former federal and state prosecutor Pat Brady. We go to him for all things legal. What are they looking for?
I don't know what they're looking for, but it's interesting. The guy that said I'm fully cooperating and was upset that they had to actually go to a judge and get a search warrant to get his phone. If you're cooperating, I call up my lawyer, say, hey, here's the phone. So two things. It means maybe he's not cooperating anymore, fully anyway. And secondly, there's an active criminal investigation.
So what? So
because there's a probable cause determination. You have to go to the judge. You can't just go get somebody's cell phone because you want to. When you're a prosecutor, you have to go in front of a judge, do an affidavit, say, here are the facts. This is why we need to see it. That's why you'd rather have him cooperate, so you have to jump that hoop.
Does this indicate that he might possibly be charged in connection with it? Or is there a reason that they're just looking for his phone for information?
Well, they're not doing it just for fun. There's an active investigation. I'm not
Against
saying
him?
he's going to be charged, but he's somewhere in that realm. And if he's not producing it voluntarily and they have to go to a judge to get it, makes me think that there's more than at least we've talked about prior to this.
All right, let's talk about the trial that we've been watching in Minnesota. The former police officer, Kim Potter, who's charged with manslaughter. She accidentally used her gun instead of the taser during a traffic stop, killing Dante Wright. She's going to take the stand, it appears, tomorrow in her own defense. Good idea?
She has to. She has to take a stand in this case. In fact, and I think in the opening, the defense counsel said that she would take the stand, or maybe in some press statements. But in this kind of case, she has to get in front of the jury and explain to them, I believe, her version of the events. And she has to get on and let the jury know a little bit about her and her background and why she did what she did. Otherwise, it's just out there. Although, that being said, the prosecution's case did not go in great.
How so? What do you mean?
There was testimony that came out during the course of the prosecution's case, during the cross-examinations, which were very effective by the defense counsel, that maybe the shooting was actually justified.
So that's a question. You didn't think this even should have been brought. I mean, clearly it's going to be a difficult case.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sitting up there in that office, but from what I've read and seen and watched, I'm not sure why this was charged at all. I mean, this is...
Because it was an accident?
Well, that's not criminal. An accident's an accident, but it turns criminal when there's reckless conduct.
Right.
And I don't see necessarily the reckless conduct. This is a guy. This is why she needs to testify. She's the training officer, right? The guy that Dante Wright had an active warrant for a gun offense that was related to, I think, an aggravated armed robbery. So when all this goes down in a split second, what she did make a mistake, and it was an accident, but are you going to prove that somehow she was reckless in doing that? I just don't think the evidence is there.
If she felt threatened, though, you could certainly make the case that why using a less lethal option there?
Well, the law is the threat, and I think it's come out during the trial, was that the other officer was going to be stuck in that car while this guy, Dante Wright's, driving away. So there's an argument. There's kind of two alternate theories that the defense has. First of all, that it was a justified shooting, and there was some testimony to that effect. And secondly, it was just an accident. It wasn't reckless. It didn't fit it's first-degree voluntary and second-degree voluntary manslaughter.
Which is interesting because we have it on tape in this case. That's what makes this case different in some ways, right? I mean, as soon as it happened, she said, oh, my gosh.
Instantly, and there's a term of art in prosecution. It's called an excited utterance. It doesn't necessarily apply here, but when you utter something like that instantaneously after the event happens, it's deemed to be pretty credible. And if you watch that video, that's why I just don't understand. It happened quickly. This guy had a felony warrant. He was fleeing. Her other officer was in danger, and she made a mistake. Granted, it's a tragedy, and it's a mistake, and she might be liable civilly, but why they're trying to put her in jail for 10 years is beyond me.
So what she says on the stand, I'm guessing, will be important to her case, but does the jury see beyond what she says is obviously an accident, and she's obviously remorseful? Does she show remorse and then at least hope that they don't find what she did reckless? Because that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, it's all about reckless. And these cases we've talked about in the last couple of months, these are really kind of, this one's a little different, but a lot of jury instruction. They're going to look at that jury instruction on what's reckless. And I think the instruction that the judge is going to give to the jury doesn't fit the facts to find her guilty. This is not some conscious act. This was a split second. She made a mistake, and that happens. But you know what? This guy, it's not his conduct is not necessarily relevant, but her state of mind. This guy has an active warrant, gun warrant, and he's trying to flee the police. I mean, I think it might even be a justified shooting if it wasn't an accident.
Right, and you can see her response here. This is some of the new body cam footage that's been released in the trial. her response after this shooting. In fact, she said
she wanted to kill herself. I mean, she was so distraught. Her officer took the bullets out of the gun. It was horrible. It's a horrible, the whole thing's horrible.
But the prosecution is saying that essentially she betrayed the badge and that she should have known better.
Betrayed the badge how? This is a matter of split second. The thing I guess that it upsets me or irritates me about the charge, I wouldn't have charged it, but I'm not up there. But it's all in this real hyper-political environment during when the Derek Chauvin trial was going. And that guy deserved every second he got in the penitentiary or was going to spend. But this charging decision to me, I don't see why they charged her.
All right, let's talk quickly about one other issue we wanted to get you on. The mayor of San Francisco is the latest now to see the light on what's happening with
She's
crime.
been watching NewsNation.
And the homelessness situation, and they're going to turn things. What changed? What broke the
Politics. Politics. It's like when Senator Durbin brought the Senate Judiciary Committee to Chicago. Politics has changed. I think the Democrats, the left side of the political spectrum, is waking up to the fact that you need to have some accountability or you're going to have chaos. And we're seeing it in all the major cities where they decided to make these big social service agencies. And that's part of the thing. You got to clean up. Listen, it's a mental health problem there, too. It's not that simple. But I think they're finally waking up to the fact that this lack of prosecution is hurting a lot of people.
The thing about it is, though, Pat, is people want reform in many ways. And some of the reform that has happened has helped. Because I know you're familiar with the situation at Cook County Jail. The population in the jail has gone down significantly. In some ways, it's worked. But in many ways, this is also leading to more crime. And this is what cities are realizing now, however long into this, that they do need to maybe get more tough with enforcement and crimes and prosecutions.
You're right. And it's a super complex problem. And there needed to be bail reforms. And there need to be police reforms, and there need to be criminal justice reforms. No argument about that. But they've gone too far. Now there's absolutely no accountability. They're shooting people in the streets. Nobody's going to jail. It's a catch and release policy in San Francisco, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, and Chicago, and people are paying for it now.
And just now, many cities, including Los Angeles, are starting to refund these police departments where they had taken money away.
Defund, even Senator Clyburn even said the stupidest political statement of the century was probably defund police. 7 in 10 support police, and they should. They do a tough job and they keep us safe.
All right. Former federal and state prosecutor Pat Brady, always good to have you. Thanks.
Good to see you, Joe.
Texas taking the border issue into its own hands, and the Biden administration doesn't like it. There are even civil rights complaints now over the state's Operation Lone Star. George P. Bush, the Texas Land Commissioner, this is his jurisdiction. He'll join us next. And later, a trans athlete breaking all kinds of swimming records at UPenn. And parents, teammates, and competitors are saying it's not fair. Is it? Should she be allowed to compete? We'll get into that ahead. I want to bring you up to date now on a story we have covered here on the Donlon Report. The Department of Justice is ending settlement negotiations for migrant families separated at the border under the Trump administration's zero-tolerance policy back in 2018. The Biden administration came under fire last month following reports they were considering payments as high as $450,000. As a reminder, the Trump administration implemented the zero-tolerance policy in 2018, resulting in the separation of thousands of migrant children from their families. Fast forward to 2021, June of this year, more than 2,000 children were still not reunited with their families. Joining me now for more, he's from a state directly impacted by the ongoing border crisis, candidate for Texas Attorney General as well, and current Texas Land Commissioner George P. Bush. Commissioner, it's good to have you again, and I want to start with that news that broke today. No settlement, so it goes back to court. Why do you think the DOJ pulled back on this?
Well, perhaps they've realize that this is a more reasonable policy and that the magnet policies are destructive to communities, not only in South Texas, but throughout the entire country. It was just reported last week that there are over 100,000 overdose deaths in our country, namely young Americans having fentanyl-laced drugs that they're misplacing and utilizing in a very dangerous way. And it's all being transited across our southern border, mostly cooked in labs in China and also the Mexican drug cartels. And so whether it's remain in Mexico policy and implementing that or pulling back on the settlement offers, maybe this administration's finally waking up to the fact that American families are being impacted by these dangerous policies.
Is it possible that maybe they didn't want to settle for as much as the litigants wanted? And I guess in exchange, isn't there the possibility that if this does continue in court, that maybe the award is even bigger than the number we've heard?
That's a pragmatic approach and one that would be more sensible. But again, the cartels are smart. This is a magnet policy. When you hear on the other side of the border, namely in Mexico and Northern Triangle, the cartels operate based on the information that if you are potentially separated, you can get a legal settlement. Meanwhile, military veterans and Border Patrol officials' severance payments or death benefits would be less than the proposed settlement figure. And so I think it rubs a lot of Americans the wrong way.
Yeah, let's move to the next issue, and we'll bring our viewers in on this because I'm sure you're well aware of it, the apparent battle between your state there, Texas, and the Biden administration at the border. While the White House says they're focused on the root cause of immigration, the number of migrants crossing the border has skyrocketed over the past year, and the governor there in Texas now says the White House has failed to prevent migrants from entering the country illegally and has now taken matters into his own hands. So he launched Operation Lone Star back in March, which utilizes the Texas Department of Public Safety and the Texas National Guard as well in a number of ways to fight smuggling of drugs and people into Texas. So number one, is this the new reality, Commissioner, where Texas, a major border state, has to take it upon itself to deal with this?
It is, and the mission has been successful. There have been challenges in the court, but I suspect that those rulings will be in the favor in the state of Texas because Texans care about protecting private property, and under criminal trespassing statutes, we've been successful in prosecuting some of these cases. Since the federal government is essentially working toward a catch and release program, this allows us to apprehend, detain, understand the folks and the risk profile of the folks that are coming across, and then to be able to jail them. So it's a catch and jail policy rather than catch and release. And as AG, I would have deployed substantially more resources to back the governor's initiative, who has forward deployed every available DPS resource to help our honorable Border Patrol officials that are doing whatever they possibly can to confront this crisis.
Civil rights groups are asking the DOJ to investigate Operation Lone Star. I'm wondering, you're running for Attorney General. What's your defense on that?
So my defense is that this is a clear-cut criminal trespassing statute program, at least in terms of arresting folks. And I personally had a chance to visit with county sheriffs and DAs and county attorneys on my 4-day-long border trip from El Paso to McAllen just last week.
Right.
And a lot of them are looking for more support from the current AG, who apparently is sleeping on the job, to deploy more attorneys to help process these claims, because we can't indefinitely hold criminal defendants in perpetuity. So we need to be able to process these claims, prosecute them more rapidly, and hold detainees for at least a year. That way, that sends more of a deterrent factor to the coyotes and smugglers that are transiting people across our border.
What else did you learn on this tour? What did you see that maybe surprised you or that you thought needed to be addressed now?
Well, part of our trip was to show the exhaustion that not only DPS, as part of Operation Lone Star, but guardsmen from all over the country, including Texas guardsmen and Border Patrol, are currently encountering. And morale is fairly low, particularly within Border Patrol, because their own president, the top of their own chain of command, continually doubts their actions in the split-second decisions they have to make when triaging the risk between those that are coming here illegally and those that are armed and would seek to do us harm on our side of the border. And so morale is low, recruitment is tough. And so we're excited to go back to the border, continue to honor our law enforcement officials as part of this campaign, because they're the ones that are keeping the watch while you and I get to enjoy our Christmas presents on Christmas morning.
Where does Texas stand on a state-funded wall?
So I'm excited to announce, you'll be one of the first to know on your show, that we will begin constructing a permanent wall in the state of Texas shortly. We'll be breaking ground in a matter of days. As part of my first act of office when the Biden administration came into play was to dedicate all available state acreage, which is one of the largest line items in constructing permanent wall. As part of Operation Lone Star, we've put up chain link fences and wiring, concertina wiring, which helps to deflect a lot of the surge that we're seeing. But permanent wall is a much more lasting solution. So we believe in the coming days we'll make an announcement in Starr County, which is in the Rio Grande Valley, where roughly 40% of all illegal immigrant apprehensions in our country occur.
All right, well, we'll look for more on that statement soon. Thank you for letting us know early. George P. Bush, candidate, again, for Texas Attorney General and the current Texas Land Commissioner. Thanks for the time.
Good to be with you.
Shifting gears now to the recovery efforts underway in the Heartland, where communities are still reeling from the damage caused by deadly tornadoes. For more now on this, we go to Kelsey Kernstein live on the ground in Mayfield, Kentucky for us. Kelsey?
Well, Joe, we're in a state park lodge right now, and this is typically an area you would see a lot of tourists. But right now, staying at the state park, hundreds. At this one alone, there's 125. But across the state, 7 different state parks, more than 400 tornado victims are staying at them. And the community has really come together to bring supplies. American Red Cross, local churches. You can see the clothes here. Up here, there's food, toiletries, soaps. There's toilet paper, just anything that these people really need. But I have to say, they're very thankful for this support right now, but they say this is not the Christmas they were hoping for.
We can't have Christmas, so I was like, for right now, all that matters is that we got each other, and, because honestly, I'm glad I'm even here right now, because honestly, I thought I was going to die.
Because my apartment's collapsed and we're just homeless. And at least we got a safe place to stay right now.
And the governor has opened the state parks until December 26th. That date may change, but many of these victims, they have no plans for what is next, Joe.
Boy, it's so powerful to hear from them, especially that young man who says, we got each other. Kelsey Kernstein, great look inside on the ground there in Mayfield. Thanks for the report.
We're going to stay as long as it takes. We thought we'd break here and get our team home for Christmas, but I've had team members come to me and say, Gary, my family at home will understand, but I've made family here in Mayfield. I'm not going home. We're going to cook right through Christmas.
That was Mercy Chef's founder and CEO Gary LeBlanc on the program last night. He's just one of the many heroes help aid in the recovery efforts in Mayfield, Kentucky. We have another one joining us tonight, someone else doing a great deal in these recovery efforts. Team Rubicon Public Information Officer Jonathan Davis. Let's get started with more on the gray shirts. Tell us about this team and its connection to veterans to begin with.
Yes, thanks for having me. So Team Rubicon is a veteran-led organization founded when a group of military veterans and first responders responded in the 2010 Haiti earthquake. From there, they felt like the mission that they performed in Haiti, they can do that elsewhere, also in our own country and internationally. And so today we have nearly 100 veterans or nearly 100 volunteers who have stepped up and are here to help the communities here in the heartland of Kentucky.
Right. What's the situation today, Jonathan? I know you're doing an awful lot there, including now putting tarps on roofs.
Yeah, that's correct. Weather has come, even after these tornadoes. Mother Nature doesn't stop. And so we had pretty harsh rains coming today and the next few days. And so immediately Team Rubicon and the volunteers that we had, this morning, we set out and just tried to tarp as many roofs as we can and assist any homes that needed assistance before the weather turned.
I know your teams do an awful lot with the chainsaw teams. You guys are cleaning up trees and doing all kinds of things. In the minute or so we have left with you, Jonathan, though, I want to hear some of the stories that you're hearing from the people you're helping.
Oh, sure. Down in Dawson Springs the other day, met with a homeowner whose home completely wiped off. It actually went and affected her neighbor's home, and all their belongings were in the front yard of her neighbors. And so our team of gray shirts, our volunteers, they came, they helped pick up some belongings and found photo albums that she thought was going to be lost. If we weren't there to get those photo albums, they would have been washed away, ruined by this rain that's coming in these next few days.
How long will you be there, Jonathan?
We're here for the next few months, for the unforeseeable future, until we can help the communities get back on their feet.
Yeah, well, I know you'll have a lot of company over the holidays there, and I'm sure the work you're doing there means the world to all of those in that community and beyond. Team Rubicon, Public Information Officer Jonathan Davis. Thanks for the time, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Leah Thomas, a transgender swimmer, is breaking all kinds of records in the pool. Now, parents are calling on the NCAA to do something in the name of fairness. Is it fair? We're going to dive into that next. The NCAA and the University of Pennsylvania are coming under fire after a transgender female swimmer dominated in recent swimming events, breaking a number of records. Parents of those swimmers competing against 22-year-old Leah Thomas are demanding she be barred from future women's events, arguing her participation is a direct threat to female athletes in every sport. Parents aren't the only ones speaking out. Swimming World argues her participation establishes an unfair setting, and the National Review went so far as to say women's sports should be women only. Joining me now for more on this, journalist and trans advocate Dawn Ennis. Dawn, I appreciate you joining us and trying to explain this, because to be honest with you, we had a hard time finding people to come on and talk about it on either side of this, which I think says a lot about where we are on this. But people watching this from a common sense standpoint, and I know you've heard it, Dawn, all say this comes down to one thing and one thing only, and that's fairness.
That's right. And I'm going to shock you, Joe. I agree with the National Review. Women's sports should only be participated with women, but trans women are women.
Well, couldn't you make the argument that
they have to have a healthy debate? We have to have a healthy debate. I'm willing to have that debate. That's why I'm here. I don't want men in my restroom. I don't want men competing in women's sports. But we have to start with something. And where I start is that transgender women, like myself, are women.
Yeah, so they're not men, clearly. But couldn't you make the point that they aren't biologically women either? I mean, they're transitioning. That's part of what I think Swimming World is going on in this, to say that swimmers like Leah have had 20 years of testosterone production, even the male genetics that might help them with larger hands and feet. I guess to my point, there are folks who just say, look, it's okay. It's about performance and athletics, and that's just not fair.
Well, I guess the question is, where do you draw the line on where our rights are? Is it okay to say you can have these rights but not those rights? Sport, according to the United Nations, is a human right. So if you're going to say, or anyone's going to argue, that people should be able to live authentically, be who they are, why would that not also include a swimming pool or in a sport? Michael Phelps, I'm sure, must have had lots of competitors who thought, gosh, I can't beat this guy because of how the physicality of Michael Phelps, his wingspan. Leah Thomas has 2 years of hormone suppression, but it's not just testosterone, obviously her lung capacity. There are many other factors that we have to look at, hemoglobins. And that's what we need, Joe. We need some research, some real hard science that tells us not just, is Leah a great performer? Absolutely.
Sure. But the important thing
but she also lost. She also came in fourth in one of her contests. She doesn't win everything she competes in.
Right, but sports is about advantage. I know.
Yes, it is.
The question is this an unfair advantage? And in races where she wins by 38 seconds, I mean, the answer is pretty obvious. There was one race where Leah finished and no one cheered, and then the second place finisher came in 40 seconds later and everyone erupted in cheers, which gives you an idea of how people think about this. Dawn, my point is, I think everyone I've talked to on this agrees. We are behind the LGBT community 100%, but when it comes to athletics, it's just not the same, and we should all be okay to admit that. Can we find a solution that makes sense? Maybe another category where trans athletes compete.
Would you imagine that a trans athlete would have anyone else to compete against? Who is Leah Thomas going to compete against?
Other trans athletes. Yeah, they're trans athletes.
There aren't that many of us.
We have to start somewhere.
Understand, all the focus on Leah Thomas, she's one competitor. There are thousands and thousands of cisgender NCAA athletes.
So if there's only one, Dawn, then why should the thousands and thousands accommodate the one? Why shouldn't it be the other way around?
I guess because that's not the country I was raised in. America is a country that stands up for everyone, not just the majority. And the real problem will be, will you want to return to the Negro League days, to have a separate league, separate but equal?
Well, that was because of color
ruled
only,
pretty heavily on that.
That didn't have anything to do with performance. That was color.
Well, this is about a person. Leah Thomas is a woman. She's authentically living her life.
Yeah.
I guess the only option she had would be to not compete and not be who she was.
Yeah.
But she's a swimmer. So she wanted to be who she was in the pool as well as in everyday life.
Right. And we should point out too, Dawn, because it's critical to this, and this is NCAA approved. She's been on hormone or testosterone suppressants for a year. But we're going to leave it at that. Again, I really appreciate you coming on and
You're welcome, Joe.
this.
But I want to ask you one question.
Sure.
Should the trans athletes be able to compete but just not win? Is that really the question?
Well, no, the question is, should they be able to compete? That's the question. Trans advocate Dawn
Have
Ennis.
a great night, Joe.
You
Happy
too.
holidays.
Take care. Good to see you. On Balance with Leland Vittert starts at the top. Joins us now. He joins us now. What do you have?
Thanks, everybody.
We're dealing with another sports issue, which is we all know what happened to Colin Kaepernick when he took a knee for social justice. Now we're going to talk about the NFL taking a knee to do business in China. They have declared Taiwan, democratic enclave that for 60 years has lived under the threat of Chinese communist rule. The NFL has taken it upon themselves to just sort of wipe Taiwan off the map and declare it part of China.
So yeah, they're going to play the games in China, right?
Right.
Here was my suggestion. Maybe the NFL should alternate years and play a game in Taiwan.
With the Taiwanese flag, I'd be all for it. It's pretty interesting, though. It just, the NBA doesn't stand up to China. The NFL doesn't either. Well,
the WTA does, though.
Leave it to the Women's Tennis Association to have a spine on something.
All right, we'll see at the top of the hour. It's On Balance. Politics don't matter when something's funny, and this was a little bit humorous anyway. Here's what Joe Biden said to a Green Bay Packers fan while touring the tornado damage. We'll play it for you next. 3 American heroes received the Medal of Honor today from the president. That's our American Snapshot ahead. Been an interesting couple of months for Green Bay Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers. After declaring his ownership over the Chicago Bears back in October, he found himself in hot water after he tested positive for COVID. Remember, in August, Rodgers told reporters he'd been, quote, immunized against the virus. He later apologized for his comments, saying that he took full responsibility for anyone who felt misled. Now, President Biden had a message for him. Touring tornado damage in Mayfield, Kentucky yesterday, the president came across a Packers fan and had some advice.
Tell our quarterback you got to get some vaccine.
Tell the quarterback he needs to get the vaccine. All right, tonight's American Snapshot. 3 soldiers receive our country's highest honor. Today, President Biden awarded the Medal of Honor to 3 soldiers for their service in Iraq and Afghanistan. Master Sergeant Earl Plumley, 41, member of the Airborne 1st Special Forces Group, received the honor in part for his role in helping to thwart an attack by suicide bombers in Afghanistan in 2013. Sergeant First Class Christopher Solis, 32, Special Operations Unit leader, recognized posthumously. Solis voluntarily went right into intense enemy machine gun fire, allowing a U.S. medical unit to safely evacuate. According to the White House, Solis made a conscious effort to ensure his body acted as a physical shield to his team. Sergeant First Class Alwyn Cash, 35, also honored posthumously after his vehicle was attacked and engulfed in flames. He got out of the vehicle, pulled the driver to safety. Sergeant Cash's uniform then caught fire, and then he moved to the back of the truck despite that and was able to get another 4 troops out of that burning vehicle. When the medical evac helicopters arrived, he refused to go until all the other wounded soldiers were taken first. Sergeant First Class Alwyn Cash, the first African-American service member to receive the Medal of Honor for actions since 9/11. Man, that's some goosebump stuff right there. And we are proud to bring it to you as we wrap our show tonight. For everyone here at the Donlon Report and for everyone honored there, we thank you for your service. Leland's next. Thank you for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.